obviously what we learned over the years. As I said, I was a kid when I started this, a stubborn kid who, just wanted to do things. So understood a very few pieces of the puzzle, and I just felt that if I could just put them together, I'll make something. Last year we were sitting and we were evaluating how much we have done in terms of the total volume of content we have built. We have built over 32 million square feet of virtual 3D spaces.
मेटावर्स को रिलेटेड एक मेरा एक सवाल था कि नॉर्मली मैंने सभी आजकल बात करने लगे आफ्टर द क्रिप्टो क्रैश एंड एवरीथिंग कि यार ये हॉट से है, सब बोलने वाली बातें हैं, कोई अभी शिफ्ट होने नहीं वाला है.
I mean, they're right for the most part of it.
Let's welcome Vikrant. Hi Vikrant, how are you?
Hi Arpan, good yaar. How are you doing?
Nice. Long time. Just wanted to, brush up on few things. Let's start off with your journey about IT Guwahati, how it has been. Although I know a lot of things about it, what were your major things due to which तुम IT गए कि यार ये करना है IT जा रहा हूँ. What was that particular factor for you?
Not much यार, इतना पता नहीं था वैसे IT के बारे में. बस न्यूज़ जो आती थी 60 का पैकेज 70 का पैकेज वही देखा था. वो देख के हमारे कोटा लिख दिया, वहाँ से तैयारी करी, हो गया IT चले गए.
So then जब तेरा पैकेज लगा in Snapdeal, I'm moving ahead of your IT Guwahati times. Let's first take deep into what exactly your thought was जब तुम्हारा placement हुआ. You went into Snapdeal, day 1 day 2 tech की company है in IT, especially for biotech. I think it was a good, considered to be a very great achievement. Why didn't you join it then? What was the problem there?
So yeah, plan around 4th year बन गया था कि at some point in my life I'm going to start up. So Snapdeal की joining थी August में. So I had a couple of months post graduation. So that time I spent with Carpium, 2-3 months working on some of the products that they were also exploring. और वहाँ पे मतलब what I felt was कि if I am going to start on my own in a couple of years, this would probably prepare me much better as compared to a job in a larger organization.
Correct.
So that thought took a lot of convincing for my parents. कि after 8-10-12 साल, they finally had 2 months of feeling कि चलो अब सब set है, and then I sort of unsettled everything for them.
So
But yeah.
When you started this part only, so let's dig deeper into this. जब आपके parents got to know कि तुम्हारा Snapdeal में हो गया है, right? After that, convincing them यार मैं एक वापस से एक unsettled startup पे जा रहा हूँ जो कि शायद अपना vision अपना तरीका अभी भी खोज रहे हैं. Because I think I remember talking to Abhishek that time, and I think they were also finding a PMF for garages and the thing. They haven't उस time नहीं मिला था तब तक.
Right.
So how difficult was this for you to convince your parents about this particular big decision? जो देख के तुम गए यार 8 लाख का पैकेज मिलेगा और जब मिल रहा है then
Yeah, so for the first 2 weeks it was quite difficult. My mom was not convinced. I don't know, 2-3 months after joining as well. उनको तब लगता है कि he'll still leave and go back to his job. But it was my dad who took the most of the effort to convince. So, but yeah, mostly, I mean, for him it was like, if he is so determined to join it, let's let him do it. So, and I mean, I was passionate about startups. I wanted to sort of explore that role, and it was a good role going to lead, business over there. So, good opportunity. And he understood that eventually I'm going to start up. So, he actually went and met the Carpium team to see it's actually a company. And yeah, so Abhishek did a bit of convincing as well. But yeah, for that, just the one who convinced mom.
Okay. So could you explain to our viewers what Bluetick VR actually does and how that led to Converse AI and what you guys are doing at Converse AI then?
Right. So Bluetick VR was very straightforward. Builders are using very basic tools to present unbuilt projects that they're selling. For buyers, it's one of the highest ticket size transaction that they make. And virtual reality solves for it. So we use that. build a couple of processes that would make it very lightweight, the 3D content, to load it on a VR headset and use that to ship these projects as virtual reality experiences. Now, last year, we were sort of sitting and evaluating, how much we've done in terms of total content creation. So, over 200 projects is what we have delivered in the last 3.5-4 years. And we've built over 32 million square feet of virtual 3D spaces. We work with 8 of the top 20 illicit brands in the country. And while, we are evaluating these 32 million square feet projects, what we understood that every new project that we take up needs us to build everything from scratch. But with, globally 3D content growing in relevance and the metaverse coming into the picture, we find that there's going to be a requirement for a lot of pre-built 3D environments, which people can use to build their metaverse experiences, their games, or their enterprise solutions. And we have, such insane amounts of dead inventory with us, which is of no use. So if you could find a way to sort of package it and offer it as a real-time 3D environment. So for example, if as a company you want to do a conference for your remote teams on the web in 3D or in the metaverse, for people who are distributed across 12 15 countries, will probably need a grand conference room to do that or an event arena. We already built that. We have that content lying around with us. We would just package it and offer this service as a tool to the 30 million 3D designers of the world. It would make perfect sense.
Correct.
So, that got us talking to other companies like us, other individual creators across the world. And honestly, that's how Converse was born. We were talking to a lot of people in the gaming ecosystem as well. And, indie game developers and smaller studios have absolutely exploded all over the world. And they don't really have the resources to hire 3D designers in-house to, sort of get everything custom built. So they are always very keen to buy pre-built, ready-to-use sort of content. And when it comes to 3D content, 3D environments are actually the biggest bottleneck because they're the biggest piece of 3D in that experience as well. So, that was sort of a natural evolution for us to build this. So with Converge, we are trying to build a global library of such 3D environments where 3D designers across the world come and list their 3D spaces. And game developers, metaverse creators, anyone can just come, pick any of those environments. So if you're building a poker game, for example, in 3D, you need a casino environment for that. So just go and buy for $100, $50 and build your game.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So 3Ds या फिर VR के जो normal environments होते हैं, environment मतलब basically अगर आपको घर का layout चाहिए कि यहाँ पे दीवार है, यहाँ पे ये खिड़की है, वो 3D environment में होना जो कि AutoCAD या इस तरीके के tools के साथ यूज किया जा सकता है या उस पर काम किया जा सकता है, उसको मेटावर्स पे भी कुछ कन्वर्जन लगता होगा, राइट? मतलब कुछ तो ऐसा होगा जिससे आप ये कन्वर्ट करते होगे, ऐसा कुछ?
Yes, I think that a couple of things. Yeah, so just to very quickly explain it. So in the most basic sense, it needs to be made lightweight because most of the legacy 3D that everyone has been created across automobile, industrial, architecture has been on legacy offline tools and has been consumed offline as well. Whereas real-time gaming, metaverse, everything is online where you are doing synchronous real-time experiences with people.
Correct.
So it has to be made extremely, extremely lightweight to load on a user's mobile device. Mobile device can be a smartphone, a VR headset, or your laptop. So the first thing that conversion needs is to make it extremely lightweight, and a couple of format level changes and the way real-time game creation tools read this sort of 3D content. So these conversion layers, these translational layers, this is what we offer as a tool to the 3D creators. They use it to make their content metaverse ready. And then we sort of distribute it everywhere where game development or metaverse creation.
So, आप basically supply को efficient बना के, then demand जहाँ पे है वो provide कराते हैं, and you are that bridging the gap and making all the supply features. Makes sense, I think, and that would be difficult for anyone to replicate also. Yes. कोई भी 3D direct भी connect कर सकता है, but they will not have that, efficient जो बनाने का.
Yes. The compression thing which we've been working on for 4 years now. I mean, this problem has always been there when you're building for the VR headset. So it's now mostly about sort of productizing those compression algorithms and offering that as a plugin to whatever tool they're using.
मेटावर्स को रिलेटेड एक मेरा एक सवाल था कि नॉर्मली मैंने सभी आजकल बात करने लगे आफ्टर द क्रिप्टो क्रैश एंड एवरीथिंग यार ये हॉब से है, सब बोलने वाली बातें हैं, कोई अभी शिफ्ट होने नहीं वाला है, मतलब लोग अपना बस शोबाजी के लिए ये ज़्यादा हो रहा है, जैसे क्रिप्टो का बीच में इस टाइम आया था, इस तरह की चीज़ें कंपेरिजन हो गई. व्हाट एग्जैक्टली डू यू हैव टू से?
I mean, they're right for the most part of it, and it's. I mean, it's an evolution. So it's not sort of a revolution or a crazy change you're going to see in the span of a couple of months or year. It's basically the evolution of the digital interactions to 3D. जैसे जैसे टेक्नोलॉजी बेटर होती रही है, we humans have been equipped with better tools thanks to startups and everyone that has made our digital interaction more natural. Next, say images आए, images से videos आए. From videos, 3D is a natural progression to make our interactions feel more natural, more interactive, more immersive. What you can believe, what you would agree with is that humans are going to increasingly spend more time digitally. Yeah. And as they spend more time digitally, they are going to value their digital sense more.
Makes sense.
So when you start valuing your digital self more, you would want things that you have with your digital self to be tangible in terms of value, that can be accredited not just to the platform, but you can own it yourself as well. And you would want the interactions and the whatever you do in that space to be more natural, more immersive, more engaging. That sort of natural progression is the metaverse. And it's probably going to take 10 years, 15 years for sure. But what you have to understand is that, before it was mainstream with the consumers, it also was mainstream with the brands, the labels, the IPs, the most professional and sophisticated creators of the world that sort of make it mainstream in terms of consumption. Right? So, when 5 years ago, we got 4G and smartphone got bigger screens, video consumption was democratized for people like you and me by the most professional creators. You had, indie creators who came up on YouTube. OTTs had the biggest of the studios and labels putting up a lot of their content. Brands actively pushing videos as their main form of advertisement or media and everything. Correct. So the first step is to make everyone a consumer. Correct. So that is what is going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years, where the brands, businesses, labels, games are going to build out such quality of 3D immersive content at scale that people like you, me, your parents, your siblings would spend 1 to 5, whatever hours, increasingly in 3D. That is when you can post. That is when you guys expect your consumer-led creators that can start coming up, and easy to create no-code tools that would sort of enable them to become creators themselves. Something like TikTok or Reels did for individuals in videos.
And you Converse.ai more specifically want to be that enabler
For the businesses, right? So we were focusing on enabling the most professional creators to have the largest repository of resources and assets and source them at the lowest of the prices.
Makes sense. Thanks for explaining so much things to us. We are noobs when it comes to metaverse. We are also trying to identify a lot of things. Saurabh has been working rigorously to make content on metaverse so that we can explain to our audience what, in a simpler language, what it is.
Right.
And this was really helpful. One more thing on that part here, revenue part, maximum. When you are, changing a thought process or behavior, if I may say, वो अगर कर रहे हैं, not to sound like a devil here, but तब पैसे जलाने बहुत पड़ते हैं. तब आप revenue source नहीं देखते हो.
Right.
Whereas your thought process was always कि यार, business है, तो या startup है, तो पैसे बनते रहने चाहिए.
Right.
And that is how you scale a startup rather than, just burning money. Don't you think it's a contradicting thought process there?
I mean, yeah, so that's what I honestly used to think. But what I have increasingly understood over the last 2 years is that you have to find the right balance. And I mean, if it's an opportunity like this where a massive shift is coming in user behavior, and that's going to come up in the next 3 to 5 years, it makes sense to make yourself visible and build a solution for that scale. So That being said, that can still be done sustainably by burning smartly and, spending wisely. So that's what we believe. And that being said, that should never be a reason for you to skip revenue, is what we believe. More scale should always unlock more revenues. Like when we were starting out, getting seed funding, getting venture back was sort of the standard and how you were sort of benchmarked as a startup. In that sort of ecosystem, from day one, we went on, we went out towards building a profitable business, bring in revenue, use that money to scale that. So we did that for 2.5, 3 years. From what I put in close to 1.5 lakhs in that company when we started it up. And we did, we were 25, 30 people in the team, scaled everything from that. So yes, and then obviously we'll use only the revenue to sort of build the business, marketing team, everything.
Okay, let's move on to, then your stint. You convinced your parents here to CarPM jana hai, and you ended up at CarPM, and when we worked together, correct? So I also spent almost 2 years with you there. What exactly, you went there for learnings. You said 2, 3, 4 years down the lane, you want to start your business. You always knew that. So you went there for learnings. What exactly few things are that you actually learned at CarPM? Not Excel sheets, not this and that. What exactly, whether,
So one, as I already said, is that building a company is a long-term process. You cannot build a company in 2, 3 years. So first thing was having that patience and that perseverance. Good things take time. That was one. Second one was around the fact that, deep tech is sort of a great mode to have. The kind of things we used to do in college, after college, we were very sort of operational, execution, on ground sort of people. From there, working at CarPM, where we sort of understood that our mode compared to other people building diagnostic solution was, the kind of data we were able to read from the vehicles.
Correct.
And that research that the team did for so many years, that sort of gave us a competitive advantage that we never sort of had to think about competition or margins and everything else. So that's something that stayed with me, and I sort of evolved to focus on core tech products. And that's where I started my own company, my first company, Bluetech VR as well. So I think these were the two main ones, and an extension of the first fact that since company building is a long-term process, there are few things, that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you have to sort of take care of yourself to be good for that long term. You have to stay physically in your best shape. You have to keep breathing. You generally, you need to take care of your employees, your people as well, because it's not a 18 months or a 12 months thing that they'll just do for you and you sort of take the value. You have to do it with them. There's no other way. So yeah, mostly that.
And Abhishek personally, who's the co-founder of CarPM, he is more into, keeping care of beta positive is also a very important parameter for me.
Yes.
More than you and me, I think.
So, making business sense out of a venture is something that, he is the one who sort of pushed into both of us. So, definitely that as well.
अपब्रिंगिंग पे आते हैं, मतलब क्या हमारी अपब्रिंगिंग ऐसी थी कि जहाँ पे एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप या किसी चीज़ को इतना बढ़ावा दिया जाता है, मतलब ऐसा लग तो नहीं रहा है, बट
नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं दिया. So I come from a small town and I had a very, very humble sort of upbringing. So upbringing से दो ही learning थी. One is to operate in scarcity of resources, जो बहुत अच्छे से सीखा, and I think that has helped me a lot in the last 3-4 years while I've been doing it. Bootstrap for most of it. And the other one was that I come from a military background, so there was a lot of traveling. 3-4 years would shift cities because dad would get posted out. So adaptability is something I learned from there. So very quick to adapt, very quick to learn. So I think these are the two things that sort of helped me post I became an entrepreneur. But for becoming an entrepreneur, I think there was not a lot of support. And especially for someone who's, families and extended families are not really seen the greatest of the time. Getting into a position where I sort of had a good job, decent paying job, going back to a position of struggle was a decision not a lot of my folks understood, but now they get it and they appreciate it as well. So that's good.
Makes sense. Okay. So, जैसा तुमने कहा, you learned adaptability with, especially बहुत सारी, जैसे मैं हिमांशु से बात कर रहा था इससे पहले वाला जो एपिसोड था, he was speaking कि यार बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें आप एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर या अलग अलग चीज़ें आपकी लाइफ में बहुत तरीके से इम्पैक्ट करती है जो आपको बाद में पता लगता है.
Right.
तो लाइक आई कैन सी कि तुमने ये बताया कि एडेप्टिबिलिटी शायद तुमने वहाँ से ही लर्न करी थी. आई एम श्योर बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता होगा.
Absolutely.
यार 3 साल तक 2 साल आप दोस्त बनाते हो, उसके बाद तीसरे साल आपको वो छोड़ के देन यू हैव टू मूव टू अ डिफरेंट सिटी.
Right.
एक वो किसी चीज़ से अटैच ना होना भी एक बहुत बड़ा थॉट प्रोसेस है. यहाँ पे एक बहुत बड़ी लर्निंग है. मतलब आई ऑल्सो पर्सनली, मुझे भी ये बोला जाता है कि एक पर्टिकुलर आइडिया से इतना ज़्यादा बहुत अटैच हो जाओ कि यू कैन नॉट इवन थिंक ऑफ राइट एंड रॉन्ग व्हेन डिसीजन मेकिंग चेंज जाती है. डू यू थिंक तुम्हारे भी डिसीजन मेकिंग में कहीं ना कहीं हर मोमेंट वो रहता है एट बैक ऑफ द माइंड?
Wait, definitely. I mean, a lot of things that happened over the previous 5-6 years before I started up did actually end up being reasons and contributions to how I sort of shaped this company. So IIT में जैसे हम लोग first thing, and I have seen a lot of entrepreneurs from IIT talk about it. When they're asked that IIT से क्यों इतने entrepreneurs नहीं करते, so the number one thing that IIT actually contributes for individuals is it makes you fearless in the sense that you can actually go out and achieve something. It's possible. It gives you that belief. So yeah, I think the strongest and the biggest contribution from IIT, this is what I feel has been. उसके अलावा being cult से की hostel के, being involved in those high intensity competitions, working for marketing team of the Fest, Techniche. So these were the things that sort of taught me that there are no rules. Those were the years we were probably evolving from being kids and students to getting first-hand exposure to how the real world works. And these were actually the things that told me you just have to find a way to succeed. It's like that. Yes. So that, and yes, I mean, so these are some of the things that during the journey I sort of realized that those back in the day were the moments when it sort of shaped this.
Fortunate that Drew and me both spent almost 4 years together at Hyderabad, and then I have seen you as a person. When do you think that shift happened? कि यार रोज सुबह उठ के शाम को पार्टी करना या फिर कॉलेज स्किप करना दोस्तों के साथ इधर उधर, and then suddenly working day and night doing night outs for your startup or for a work that you want to do pursue in. ये shift, when do you think it came? मतलब कुछ एक ऐसा point, inflection point आया था या it is just gradual?
I mean, so yeah, the past you already know how we used to be in IIT Guwahati, and a few years after that as well. So I think there's no singular point जहाँ पे shift आया, but it's just that what I realized recently is that being lazy and ambitious is the most painful combination for a person to have in their life. If you're lazy and not ambitious, it's fine. If you're ambitious and hardworking, it's fine. But I think the most miserable people are the ones who want to do a lot of things but are lazy, and then they know that. So धीरे-धीरे what I understood about startups, and that's something I learned during my time at Carpium as well, is that you can't build a company in 2 to 3 years, and a company is not meant to live for 5 to 7 years. It's a very, very long process and a journey. And वो करने के लिए more than motivation, you need discipline. So you can't possibly motivate yourself every second day to get something done. You have to go by the process. So this came to me around 2018 when I went to Spiti. Spent around 10 days out there in the summers. वहाँ पे this is what I realized that, and वहाँ से I became very process oriented. So quit smoking at that point. Used to smoke a lot. Used to weigh about 60 kgs. I started working out, gained 20 kgs. Started mixed martial arts. Started meditation. Started this company as well. So all this to the point, thanks to the understanding that everything works if you follow the process. So that understanding sort of led to the shift, to the transition. There was no specific point, but if we were to say a point, that was the point. 10 days in Stuti.
For me, if someone asks, यार सबसे difficult, क्या चीज लगती है तुम्हें? I think discipline लगता है, क्योंकि वो रोज करना, and it's important यार, वो रोज boring routine रोज follow करना is important. Like मतलब I think I heard Sunil Chetri, telling this बहुत clearly. यार Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, they are Virat Kohli, they are these people because they follow that same boring routine
Every day.
every day.
Yes.
And that is what makes them great. Because 1-2 साल के लिए तो चीजें कोई भी कर सकता है, but pertaining मतलब sustaining for years and years and
No, absolutely.
same.
और ये चीज मतलब different forms में package होके as wisdom मिलती रहती है. Like there's this one saying कि success is rented and the rent is due every day. It sort of means the same thing. Hard work eats talent for lunch. These are sort of the repackaging of the same. I mean, hard work is sort of inexcusable.
And having a proper discipline or process or routine, whatever you want to say, something very necessary. But everyone who wants to succeed, anyone who's watching this should know that this is something anyone should follow, or they should have a basic routine, और गोल से पहले जो प्रोसेस होता है उसको डिफाइन करके उसे रोज फॉलो करना, वो सबसे डिफिकल्ट टास्क है. वो जो कर लेता है वो आई थिंक मैक्सिमम बैटल वो जीत ही जाता है. आई पर्सनली वांटेड टू नो वन, आई वांटेड आवर ऑडियंस आल्सो टू नो दिस. यार सारी चीजें रोज ही राइट नहीं होती है. मतलब वी यूज्ड टू, इफ यू रिमेंबर, we used to go to visit garages, very small shops, just to know, because a lot of things the mechanics were teaching us about the product. यार ये तुम्हारे पास है, ये नहीं है, ऐसा कर दोगे तो और बेटर होगा, ये होगा. एंड इट वाज सो इम्पोर्टेंट कि यार रूम पे बैठ के कुछ नहीं होता है.
Absolutely.
आपको घुसना है तो फिर घुसना पड़ेगा. दैट्स समथिंग इट वाज वेरी, पीपल शुड नो कि यार यू नीड टू गेट योर हैंड.
No, absolutely. I think this again, for people like us, who have done that grind on the ground, it comes very naturally to understand that you cannot build a company by sitting in a rosy office. You have to go out and talk to the customers, and you have to do things that don't scale initially. It's inexcusable, having a great website, great social media presence, a great distribution strategy. This would all definitely not work if you don't go out and send your first 1,000 people and who would like to buy from you. In fact, Bluetick VR, a company, it was basically virtual reality tool for folks in the real estate industry. When we were planning to start this out, me and Anshul, we got to know that there's a event happening in a real estate conference by Credai. It's the real estate developer over here that was happening in Delhi. And Modi ji was the guest over there, so we were obviously not allowed to go in. So we took our VR headset. I mean, it was a invite-only event, so we took that headset and we stood outside the venue for 2.5-3 hours, so that when the event gets over, these builders would come out and would catch them at the gates. So, and I mean, there was no doubt up in our head that this is an effort in the wrong direction. We were so happy that we're getting to talk to so many of them in a single place. So we ended up talking to around 40-45 of them. Got our first 2 projects before we even had the product. And a lot of folks obviously told us that this is absolute shit. It's not going to work. Technology like virtual reality in an industry as laid back as real estate in a country like India is never going to work. 2 months back, we were the technology partner for their event, Credai's national conference that happened in Abu Dhabi, that had the top 1,000 builders of the country, and they facilitated us on the stage for being the pioneers in the space.
What a journey, man. What a journey. I think वही चीज है कि आप उसे पता जो भी है कस्टमर सेगमेंट अगर वहाँ दिख रहा है, जाओ चाहे वो कॉल बाय ग्रुप उनसे इंटरेक्ट करो.
बिल्कुल.
एंड सेल करो. पुश सेल तो शुरुआत में करना ही पड़ता है. एंड दैट इज द बेस्ट फीडबैक दैट यू विल गेट. ज्यादा क्या मना ही करेंगे नेचुरली, तो ठीक है, कोई रेवेन्यू नहीं. Anshul, I would like to tell everyone that Anshul is your co-founder. He is also from IT Party and is from our batch only.
Yes.
We'll have him in some other episode for sure. And so how did you, guys decide? I think he was doing UPSC. So he was preparing for that for some time.
Yes, he was. And post that, he was for a year or year and a half in the Web3 space. He was building his own crypto project.
Okay.
And so there was a very severe crash in the blockchain space around 2018. And that's when opportunity sort of dried up for him. And incidentally, he's the one who used to own a VR headset. The place where he worked, they used to have a VR headset, and me used to hang out and play a lot of games. That was actually my first exposure to VR. So the conception of the idea and putting all these pieces together, that sort of happened when we were sitting together. What I sort of had in my mind when I was going to start is, one, it has to be a deep tech product, as I already told you. Second, another thing I learned while I stint at Karvy is that always build in a cash-rich market. So I did not have a lot of global market understanding at that point, but what I understood from what I saw was that people spend most of their earnings. I mean, if you remove education, healthcare, and marriage, they spend it on either cars or their houses.
Correct.
So I understood real estate is a good market from that perspective. And what I specifically had as a filter was that I wanted to do a B2B startup, because I personally felt I'm not ready to go run a B2C company. And it's very difficult to do it bootstrap as well. So that's why I wanted to do B2B. So things sort of, made sense. Plus, had a bad property buying experience myself with my family. Were looking to buy a flat here in Gurgaon. And in the north, broadly, the sort of trust in builders is not that great. And most of the projects were actually under construction. So the position was going to be 2-3 years later. So essentially, my parents were making their biggest investment decision into something they can't even see. So
You saw that gap.
we saw that gap, had a VR headset with us. Like, we can see something that's not there. And we need something to show to them that,
So that's not there. Right?
yeah, so that's when we made the connection.
Yeah, then you both started this in
2019. And in a year's time, Vishesh, my third co-founder, joined us as well. Again, a friend from college. So it has been great building this with friends. So one thing while you're starting out is that the idea, probably the co-founder is more important than the idea at that point, is what I would say.
करेक्ट, क्योंकि पिवट तो लोग करते ही रहते हैं अगर जरूरत पड़ी, बस co-founder के साथ आप पिवट.
Absolutely, Aaron.
Agreed. And then I'm sure you said so easily कि यार 1 लाख मैंने पूरा वो कर लिया, बट आप कितना डिफिकल्ट होगा यार 1 लाख इन अ ईयर खर्च करना सिर्फ ऑन मैक्सिमम थिंग्स एंड देन सर्वाइविंग एंड मेकिंग श्योर की सारी चीज़ें हो. हाउ डिफिकल्ट कुछ चैलेंजेस जो स्पेसिफिकली आए हो व्हेन यू थॉट किया छोड़ देते हैं ना, वापस चले जाते हैं, डिड इट एवर आता है?
The feedback from builders was always discouraging. It's just like fighting the system. Your customers are the system, and they don't really appreciate change. That was the biggest one. Second one was, it's a very glamour-driven market, and very noise-driven. So the, how prone we were to sort of spending on marketing or attending events, buying expensive tickets, but then explaining ourselves that, no, this is not the right way to do it. And then still staying frugal, building it via pushing it to these builders. That's something, took a lot of effort to convince ourselves to not spend. But yeah, we learned, the best thing is that we talked to a lot of builders. In the first year, I think I talked to over 600 builders in the first year. So that we had.
And I think it was, great chatting with you. Seeing, I'm sure काफी सारे लोग जो ये देख रहे होंगे, person coming from a tier 2 city, born in tier 2 city, then hopping cities because parents की job ऐसी थी, and then, cracking IIT, post that, not caring about grades, studies or career during those 4 years, then eventually doing meditation, talking about discipline, talking about, making waves at metaverse economy, VR economy. I think, that's something everyone should learn. कि कोई भी लोग कुछ भी कर सकता है. I think that confidence you literally give a lot of people, and I think that is something we are really happy to host you here on that part. Anything that you would specifically want to tell us, me and
specifically this, that it has been possible because of people like you. The people around me, my friends and family, they have been the greatest asset for me to sort of go out and do this. So you can never do it alone. So that's for sure. And apart from that, just keep things simple. Is what I tell everyone. Be true to what you're solving and who you're building it for. And just grind every day. That's it.